Well, what do we have here? A Future Game Showcase, and it's not June. So today we're going to be looking at the Future Game Spring Showcase. And if you didn't know this was happening, I don't blame you because I didn't either until it popped up on the front page of the Steam store. If you don't know how my showcase videos work, basically what I do is I go through the event and talk about every trailer that stands out to me, and I'll tell you if the game looks good, mid, or bad based on the trailer. So this time the showcase is hosted by Jennifer English and Nolan North. Not much to say about the presentation of the show, it was pretty stock standard. We do know that if Ben Starr ever goes missing, we know who the prime suspects are going to be.
Murder.
Starting off with the showcase, we got to look at Lost Rift. And if you told me that this generic looking early access survival game was made by the same development studio that made Bulletstorm, I'd want to know what happened. So what happened? What is this?
Okay, now we're cooking.
Nolan. Mate, if you think that trailer was cooking, then I don't want to think about what you serve your guests when they're over for a barbecue, because that shit was just really fucking raw. Clair Obscur still looks amazing. This is absolutely a game to keep an eye on. Animal Use Protocol, a horror game where you play as a monkey with a mouse companion. Or is this a rat? It doesn't matter. The atmosphere that the trailer brought was really good. You know, a horror game where you play as an animal experiment isn't something that I think I've seen before. The gameplay looked a little off. It's kind of hard to explain, but it definitely seemed like the trailer was trying to make it seem like the game was more action heavy than it actually is. I'm going to put this one as like cautiously optimistic. I'm not sure about this one. If you're excited for the upcoming Onimusha remake, is it? It looks like they're giving Onimusha 2 a remaster to keep you tied over there in the meantime, along with a new one-hit kill difficulty mode. So that looks kind of neat. Nitrogen Omega. I actually played this one during the Steam Next Fest and I didn't love it. I have a feeling that this will come up again, so I made a video about all the games I played during Steam Next Fest if you're interested in that. So Nitrogen Omega is a game that I feel like some people will definitely like, but it really wasn't for me. I do like this trailer though, even if it does oversell its features just a little. I think the demo for this one is still up on Steam, so you don't really need to take my word for it if you think this looks right up your alley. The remake of The End of the Greatest RPG of All Time. So this one has a pretty high concept. It's a game where you play the last hour of a remake of an RPG, and you need to use the manual, director's commentary, and some kind of behind the scenes footage to figure out how the game works. Also, it looks like it delves into some kind of psychological horror at some point because nobody seems to know what the game actually is. Like I said, it's a bit of a high concept. It seems like it's kind of delving into, Petscop territory, except it's an actual game. Well, some of it is. I actually don't know. This is really confusing. Fuck it. Sign me up. Let's go. I Hate This Place is an isometric horror game with a comic book aesthetic. In fact, it is based on a comic book, apparently. Love the art style, love the music. Gameplay looks like it's going to be a little janky, but as long as it's the good horror game jank and not the unfun to play kind of jank, then I think it'll be good. Once Upon a Puppet has a cool aesthetic. The trailer was showing a lot of stuff and it was kind of hard to make sense of what the game is going to be other than a platformer. It was kind of just felt like I was throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. Revenge of the Savage Planet. I have no idea what these guys were thinking with this one.
You ain't no shabby, now you a dig dog.
This is a trailer for the deluxe edition content for the game, by the way. Look, this was awful. Put it in the bin. No thank you. Deathground aims to be a game based entirely around that one scene in Jurassic Park in the kitchen with the raptors that scared the shit out of all of us as kids. It is a co-op horror game, and based on the gameplay we've seen, it feels very reminiscent of Outlast Trials, which I really like. This one is going on the wish list. If this game ends up being terrible, at least we got a good Nolan North reaction gif out of it. Elsewhere, Electric was not a game I was going to talk about. In fact, I'm still not really going to talk about it, but in the trailer, they did the thing where they had the two people pretending to, kind of actually play the game. And every time a trailer does this, it always sounds fake, and it never feels genuine, and just please, for the love of God, just stop doing it. The Atari logo showing up on anything post 2010 should give out immediate warning signs. Luckily, this is a remaster of a game that came out long before then. System Shock 2 is getting remastered for its 25th anniversary. It should be good, but with remasters you never really know. If that is the case, the old version of the game is on GOG and is part of their program where they make old PC games work on current hardware, so that's neat. So, if the remaster ends up being a dud, then we've got that. So what if A Hat in Time was a furry nightmare? That's what I think Billy Bust Up is, but who the hell knows, because the only thing we saw in this trailer was a musical number that wasn't very good. Tactical RPGs. This is certainly one of them. Chains of Freedom didn't really do anything to convince me that there is anything more to care about the game than what the game genre is. We have a roguelike shooter where we are children's toys. It has co-op. We didn't really get to see too much from this trailer. It was extremely short, but it has potential. Bionic Bay really caught my eyes. It is a 2D side-scrolling platformer, quote-unquote racing game with time manipulation mechanics that I did not really understand. Luckily there is a demo for this one, so let's go check it out, and it's Limbo. The game is pretty much Limbo. Limbo is good, so I think it's worth giving a shot. Neighbors Suburban Warfare looks like it could be fun. I don't know about this one. I don't think the trailer was doing anything wrong, but there is something about it that I just cannot put my finger on that feels very off. It just feels like one of those games that could be fun for an hour or two, but just gets old really quick. Hawthorne. This is a game where you create a farm with a bunch of woodland creatures. This is a no from me. The art style and animations look extremely rough on this one. I mean, the idea seems kind of solid and it needs to be kickstarted. Nah fam. Industria 2. Environmental and art design, that's a 10 out of 10. This looks great. Voice acting, I hope that the trailer was just kind of a bad representation of that. I'm gonna go with hope on this one. I think there is something here. I've never heard of the first game, but this looks pretty cool. Romestead, a survival game where you need to rebuild your empire after the fall of Rome. But there's zombies and monsters. It looks alright. Pioneer. Stalker-like is now a genre of games, I guess. Like, I don't know about this one. I've never really played a Stalker game in my life. I've seen some people play it a little bit. So, I mean, if you're a Stalker fan out there watching this, does this game look good to you? As a fan of Stalker, do you lot actually want all of these new Stalker-like games that seem to be coming out? Because at least to me, a lot of these games look very, very similar. Although Pioneer does look like it is a slightly more action-orientated Stalker-like game, but I'm not seeing it do much new. Rivals Hover League looks genuinely fun. Rocket League x Mario Kart Battle Mode, or Twisted Metal maybe, might be a better example. I think this game has a chance, as long as it's not filled to the brim with live service microtransaction garbage. Yeah, I'll give it a go. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Will Follow the Light, as far as I can tell, looks to be a quote-unquote story-rich game, which is a fancy term for a storied walking simulator. This isn't a bad thing. I really like these games if they're done correctly. See the beginner's guide. This whole part on the ship didn't really look like any kind of real gameplay. It felt like the trailer was just kind of trying to disguise the fact that it didn't have much gameplay variety to it. I'd like to be proven wrong, but I didn't really see anything here. Cloudheim is a survival crafting game that seems to have an emphasis on physics-based combat. This is going to be one of those games that really kind of lives or dies based on how fun the combat is. I'm hoping it's going to be on the side of fun. It looks fun. Section 13 is a top-down shooter. It looked fairly generic, but the trailer presented itself in a way where it's kind of self-aware enough to try and do a funny meta trailer, but not self-aware enough to know that it wasn't funny. I had to take a break watching this showcase to go to work and, you know, be a productive human being for 7 hours. This was a weird spot to come back to. Bandit Trap is an asymmetric multiplayer heist game where a bunch of goons invade a house, while one person fills it up full of traps, like Home Alone style, I guess. Sounds like a great idea for a party game, as long as it's, you know, cheap enough to convince my friends to play it, then I'm down to try it. It looks whack, but just whack enough to where I'm kind of interested. Metal Eden actually looked really cool. A sci-fi first-person shooter that looks like it plays a bit like the newer Doom games, just a little bit slower. What I like is that it didn't feel like the trailer for this game was trying to edit around the gameplay. I have a pretty good grasp on what's going on here and I like it. Neon Abyss 2. It's Neon Abyss, but a sequel. The first one was almost universally loved, I think, so it'd be pretty silly to bet against this being a bad game. The Last Caretaker is a survival game, but it's essentially like Wall-E on an oil rig, with aliens, possibly. Survival games aren't really my jam, but this one did kind of intrigue me just that little bit. If it has a decent enough story, then I think I would like to give it a try. Locomoto is a cozy train conducting game. Do you think that there is like a fishbowl out there somewhere just filled with a bunch of like tiny pieces of papers with random occupations written down on them? Then whenever an indie game is out of ideas, they're allowed to just kind of, you know, lucky dip, pick out of the bowl and then they just have to make a cozy game out of whatever they get. Because I don't know how you arrive at, you know, cozy coal-based train management. Managing a coal-based train sounds like a lot of hard work. Karma: The Dark World. Okay, so I watched a friend of mine play the demo for this game late last year, and it was an absolute trip. If you were confused because you watched this trailer and it was borderline incoherent, well, You're gonna get a lot of that from playing this game. It's a horror game that is inspired by like the works of Hideo Kojima. The demo was a total mess, but it was kind of like a fantastic mess. I'm going to be giving this one a go when it comes out next week because I just think it's just so whack. It's crazy. I'm not sure if the demo is still out, but if it is, I highly recommend you give it a shot because it's an experience. Frosthaven is supposedly a video game based on the biggest board game Kickstarter of all time. I've never heard of Frosthaven, supposedly amassed almost $13 million in its Kickstarter, which is impressive. I hope the video game costs less than the board game because 335 Australian dollars is just, ooh. Although now that I think about it, wouldn't this video game make the board game kind of like obsolete if it's the same thing, but one version's digital and it's cheaper and has like a lot more accessibility, especially for like multiplayer and stuff? If you ever want an example of a game that hides its gameplay with terrible editing, watch the trailer for Stand Alone. I don't know if the editing was intentional or not, but I can't tell what the fuck is going on. I hate this. What's funny is that there is a trailer on this game's Steam store page that's a much better representation of what the game actually is. Sure, it isn't as eye-catching, but if the trailer isn't a representation of your game, then what are you doing? So yeah, I would have picked the trailer that didn't feel like it was edited by someone who does fonk edits on TikTok. Which trailer do you think you guys would choose? Mecha Break. I reckon the slot for this trailer was booked long before the Steam Next Fest happened and everyone actually got their hands on this game. So yeah, I did play a bit of this one a few weeks back and I absolutely despised it. The trailer for this game is actually pretty good representation of what it feels like to play the game. It is just a bunch of incomprehensible action nonsense. Reanimal, a game that looks a little like Little Nightmares made by the team who made Little Nightmares, but it isn't Little Nightmares. Hang on. I think I've said this before, hold up. Reanimal, made by the people who did Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Looks like it's meant to be the third game, but it isn't. Absolutely love this trailer, it looks great. Yeah, look at that, Gamescom 2024. Damn, it was almost verbatim too. Look, yeah, this game still looks good. FBC Firebreak is the new game from Remedy, who make very good single-player games that I don't play. Now they're making a multiplayer game that I don't know if I want to play. I mean, it looks pretty good. I don't want this game to be the biggest hit that Remedy ever has that will end up, kind of hamstringing the studio into supporting this game over doing what they're actually good at, which is, pushing the bounds of what single-player gaming experiences can be. Also, I see that little Steam logo. You better actually release this on Steam, unlike Alan Wake 2. Chronos is the new game from Bloober Team, the team behind the Silent Hill 2 remake. Chronos looks interesting. Oh, that's it? That's all we got? Some vague body horror and a promise for more later? Oh, they really do mean later because we got a deep dive after the main show ended and they didn't really show that much more when it came to gameplay. Okay. Well, I hope this game works out for you, Bloober Team, because, if it fails, then you lot may get stuck making Silent Hill remakes for the rest of your life. The final trailer we have for the night is for Painkiller. The franchise probably best known for having that one, kind of obscure game that Yahtzee Croshaw likes. This one looks cool, but I don't know what makes a good Painkiller game a good Painkiller game. I'm gonna go with a, yeah, sure on this one. I don't think Painkiller was ever that huge to feel like it's a cash grab by bringing the series off of ice. I really liked the metal as hell art design of this one though. Even if it is a bit overplayed at this point, I still think it looked really cool. And that is the end of the Future Games Spring Showcase. So what did I think of it? It wasn't bad. If they went with this crop of games, in the middle of the Summer Games Fest, then it might have been a pretty underwhelming, but the Spring Showcase only went for like 90 minutes to 2 hours. It was pretty streamlined. It showed some cooler, smaller games coming up, and that's all it really needed to do. I think if you're a game dev, then you should look to put your games in these kind of off-peak season showcases because it's so easy to get lost in the fold. When the Summer Games Fest happens and there are 100 of games you need to contend with to try and stand out rather than like 20. Anywho, I usually give these conferences a grade. I'm going to go with a B-. It was nice. It wasn't bad. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it this far, then please consider leaving the video a like and subscribing if you haven't already. And also let me know what your favorite game from this showcase was in the comments below. Thanks to my YouTube members Controlled Killer, Yellow, Melodia, and Jingles. Absolute legends. If you think my content is worth supporting with more than just a subscription, then you can do so as a YouTube member. Perks are on the screen, but if you'd like to do something that supports me that is free, well, I have a community Discord server that is free to enter, as well as a Steam curator page. Also, I do these showcase recaps every now and then, so hopefully some of these should be showing up on the screen right now. So if you like this video, then there's more of that. and a bit more in depth too. Links to everything else in the description of the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all soon. I would give you a hint to what is coming up, but anytime I do that, it never ends up happening. So, I'll just catch you next time.